This was
You
not
look
chicken.
good.
Thank you. It's amazing what a little bit of makeup will do.
I know. I put a little bronzer on.
I was gonna say, as long as you took a shower, I'm okay.
Well, it was funny when you said, "Oh my God, could you comb your hair this time when you come?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll comb my hair." I was like, "Oh shit!" I asked my sister. I said, "Do you have some hairspray I can borrow?"
Well, you look fabulous.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Of course.
You know what this year has been.
It's been a rough year for
Hang on
you.
1 second. Stop it, Bailey. The dog whining. Um, yeah, it's been kind of an insane year, but I know that you also lost your mother.
I did.
Um,
She died like in 2002. Well, I lost my dad and my mom within a year. So my dad died in 2002. My mom died in 2003, I believe it
oh
was.
wow.
Yeah.
I heard a recent story from another friend, same type of situation where it was like just in the span of 2 years, her partner had lost both her mom and dad at the same time. So it was like, did you even have any chance to
Recover.
recover? Because that's just like a constant ongoing cycle, I feel, of the grief process. It's like you've got steps in the grieving process, overlapping steps in the grieving process.
Well, my mom was battling breast cancer for
Hmm.
like 6 years before she passed, from her diagnosis to when she passed away.
Hmm.
And she swears that my father couldn't live without her, and that's why he just died first. Because nothing
Oh.
was really major going on with him. I mean, he had diabetes,
Mm.
um, but he was the kind of guy who didn't do a thing. He worked in a factory really hard. He came home, gave my mom the paycheck.
Hmm.
She gave him $5 for gas. Well, back then, $5 for gas. And he never wrote a check in his life.
Hmm.
He knew nothing. And she was like, he couldn't live without me. That's why he wanted to go before me. That's what she
Oh.
swears.
Now, how long had your mom been battling the cancer that was kind of like something you were thinking of?
6 years.
So,
She
okay.
went she was very at it. She went every year for her mammogram,
Hmm.
and this is what gets me, and this is why people have to advocate for themselves. I think
Hmm.
uh, they saw some kind of spot, and they thought, oh, instead of waiting a year, come back in 6 months, which she did. She made the appointment in 6 months. The insurance said no. The doctor said, oh no, we just saw you 6 months ago. Wait another 6 months. And within
Mm.
that 6 months period, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer.
Wow.
Stage 4. And so, in our minds, we're like, would that 6 months have made a huge
Yeah.
difference?
And I feel that that is like really frustrating. It's something, especially like in the medical community, especially today, is they see something, they're like, hey, we're going to send you for this test, or hey, we're going to check on this. And it's almost like a lack of urgency that I feel that there is to get somebody in and start everything happening sooner than later. It's always like, we'll come back in 6 months. And people don't understand how fast things can grow just within that 6 month period. Because with my mom and her breathing situation, like when we had gone to Virginia the year before and she went to check out everything at her house, she seemed fine. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary. But then when we went back to pick her up, just within the matter of a couple months, it was just that, all of a sudden she's having trouble breathing. All of a sudden she's having the pain in her lower quadrant. Let's get her in. And that was 4 months. And then 1 month in the hospital, and now she's not here.
Right.
So it's how fast things can go through the body, and how fast, especially like cancer cells, can increase. And a lot of it, I said, I got frustrated with my mom because it was based on the fact that she initially had that, I'm going to take better care of myself and I'm going to do this. And then she slipped back into old routines. And then
Right.
she wasn't eating right. She was eating sugar. She was buying, better not say the name of the company, I'll get in trouble. But she was buying boxes of a dozen donuts like almost a week and going through them. And it's like, you're fueling what's in your body right now.
Well, it's funny what you're saying that. I know you're an only child, but I have a sister 3 years older than me. I live in California. They were back in New Jersey. So everything was heaped on my sister's shoulders. She
Hmm.
gave up her life to take care of my parents.
So your parents were in Jersey with your
Yes.
sister.
And I would go visit, and it's like, oh, son's home, and there's nothing I could do that was wrong, kind of thing.
And he's from California, and woo!
Yeah,
And what celebrities do you know? And everybody's like,
exactly.
have you met so and so? And it's like, no.
Well, it was funny when my mom was battling, going through chemo, and she was going through chemo, radiation, like
Mm-hmm.
she was in the doctors 3 times a week. Like it was always something. And my sister was like cooking broccoli and
Mm-hmm.
all those healthy things.
Yeah.
And I'm there and I'm all like, here, mom. And so I was like giving my mom treats all the time, like, and my sister would yell at me. And so I was like the good son who was bad in a way, right? But
You're really indulging, son.
I was, because I was like, let her freaking enjoy herself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Uh, Another, like, from the radiation and everything, she would get sores in her mouth. So
Oh.
I would freeze grapes even,
Mm-hmm.
and frozen grapes. I don't know if you've ever had them. They're like the best things in the world. And my mom's like, oh my god, it was like so soothing for her to have
Oh.
those grapes. It was just like little things like that. But
Yeah.
it's funny when you were saying about how easy it is to give up and like start eating unhealthy because
Mm-hmm.
you give up. But my mom's doctor, though, I have to say, he was someone who didn't believe in telling the patient you have 6 months, 8 months, or a year,
Mm-hmm.
because he says it gets in people's heads.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't say anything. And, living here, I would call my sister and be like, well, what's the doctor saying? And well, I don't think I want to know. I didn't ask. And so when I flew home one time, I went with my mom to the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom was getting her radiation treatment, and I went into the doctor's office and met with him, and I said, well, what's my mom's prognosis? And I'll never forget this. He said, your mom is going to die. Like, just so bluntly said that,
Wow.
your mom is going to die. And I was just like, what? Like taken aback. And he's like, yes, I
That's
don't
like
know.
all of a sudden just everything just shuts down. Someone says that to you, and you're like,
You're like shaking
wait,
inside.
well, it's like you're not processing. It's like all of a sudden your brain really does. It stops because you're like, did I just hear what I thought I heard? And why the fuck are you going to say that
Right.
to somebody?
So then he tells me this, and I'm like, and he says, I don't know if it's going to be quick or, but she's definitely going to die. And I'm just like, just so blunt and so not with any caring or feeling like that this is something that I'm hearing for the first time. Because in my mom's head, she was the most positive attitude person.
Mm-hmm.
All
And
the
that's
people,
important because you really have to have that no matter like where you are, what you're going through, health wise, like job wise, financial wise, whatever in life. If you let yourself go down that rabbit hole of just saying, well, I'm just going to give up, like, what's the point of this? You are also doing more damage. Like, your body is going to also start reacting to the negativity and to the stress and to everything that you're basically emotionally dealing with.
so with my mom, I don't think she realized as that it was as bad as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was just gonna get better, and uh, during chemo radiation, you know how like people like I'm so sick,
Yeah.
nausea. Well, we're Polish. My mother's like, oh, I was feeling a little nauseous, so I made myself some food. Like just eat something and it'll cure everything, kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
she, even when she passed, my sister and I took something to the doctor's office, a gift for the office because
Mm-hmm.
everyone was so nice there, and they all said the other patients who were having radiation or chemo with her, you're in a room for the chemo,
Mm-hmm.
in a chair or whatever. And they all were such sad people. And my mom would just be telling jokes and trying to keep everyone up. She uplifted
Aw,
everyone. And
bless her heart.
so it was tough. Not
Mm-hmm.
like, so now back to the story where I'm hearing that she's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget it. And then she, of course, was done with her treatments by the time, and she walked in, and you're trying to cover it and just be like, you
Yeah,
don't know anything. And I went, we were driving home, and of course, in my head, the Hollywood person, I want to create those moments, those special moments. So we
you're
went,
like every moment counts now. Every moment
yeah,
counts.
so I want something wonderful that she'll remember about me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to lunch, and we went to a Jersey diner. We went to a Jersey diner, And it just hit me all of a sudden. And I said, "Oh, I got to use the restroom." I went into the restroom and I just started crying. It was awful. Like,
Oh,
and it's like, because I don't want her to know what I know, because
yeah.
the doctor's saying he doesn't like when people know these things or whatever.
Mhm.
So, and you pull yourself together, you go back out.
But what a burden to have
What
on
a
your
burden.
heart, and what it's like, what a thing to have to keep
Yeah,
and not be able to talk about. It's like all of a sudden it's like you just feel your eyeballs starting to fill up
yeah,
and you're like, it's coming. It's coming.
yeah.
I've got to let this out somehow because you can't hang on to that.
Well, and then of course I take it out on my sister
Oh,
because,
see,
because
I didn't have a sibling. I had no one to take it out, anything
your
out
kid,
on.
you should take it out on your kid.
He's wonderful. I'd never do
But
that.
so we left there, and then I was like, in Perth Amboy, we have like a little, there's a river with a little boat docks
Hmm.
and stuff with benches. And I thought, oh, let's go sit by the water. So it's
Hmm.
freaking, October or whatever. It's already chilly there. We went and we sat, and there was an ice cream place. I said, oh, let me get ice cream for us. And we went and like we had ice cream, and she's tired. She's just had
Hmm.
treatment and stuff like that. So we sat there a while, and I wanted to create that nice moment. And then she was like, "Oh, why don't we go home?" Because she was tired at this
Tired.
point. And it's just weird how you do these things.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like when you heard your mom had cancer, right?
Hmm.
What was your initial reaction?
Which
I'm
time? The
curious.
first
The
time
first
or the
time.
second time? When she first got diagnosed with the ovarian cancer, it's I she had gone to get results. They had called her into the doctor's office, and I kind of knew something was going on because she pulled up in the car in the driveway and just sat there for a really long time. I think she was like sitting in the car for like 20 minutes. And then when she came in, she just kind of went right from the front door back to her room and didn't say a word. So I immediately start tearing up and crying because I know she's gotten news that's not good. And when I walked into the room, she was in tears. So it was just like we were both in tears. She's like, I've got ovarian cancer. And we just sat there and cried together. And I was like, I can't believe after everything this woman has been through. She had years before, like probably in 2005 or 6, she had a macular hole in her eye, which is just a really rare,
I remember
crazy
her telling me about that. Yeah.
genetic thing where they had to close up this hole with a gas bubble. So she had that, and then she had the liver surgery, which they thought was maybe precancer, and going through that. And that was really scary because she was in the OR for like 9 hours. It's like they take you in, you're sitting in the waiting room, and they had a board that was charting like these are the people that are in surgery right now. And I just kept watching people tick off of the surgery board that were done and in recovery. And there's my mom's name still staying in the list. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And that really scared me, but she came out of that and they're like, no, there's no cancer, there's nothing, everything's fine. So it's like, whew. So when she got hit with the ovarian cancer diagnosis and devastated when she was home, it was just like it hit me as hard as probably it hit her, because it's like she doesn't want to not be here, I don't want to lose her. And after we sat there and cried for a while, then it was like, okay, what do we have to do next? Because I want her to be okay. Like, when are we going to get you in? What are they going to do? She's like, there's going to be a hysterectomy, there's going to be chemo. And she was like a warrior fighter at going through it that first time, and it kicked her ass, but she handled it like a champ. It was like chemo every week
Yeah.
for 4 months.
It's funny. I had a real different reaction. Again, I was living out here, so my mom called me,
Hmm.
and I knew she was going to the doctors and having these tests done, and I immediately was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's going to be fine.
Hmm.
It's going to be fine. I just kept like, and I'm that type of person. I know you just because we're friends. Like, you don't feel good, you go to the doctor. I'll
Yeah.
wait till I'm on my deathbed before I
Well,
go
I
to the
also find
doctor.
that that's a male versus female thing a lot of the times too. because Phil is exactly the same. I'm like, I'll go get it checked out sometime later. And me, it's like, wait, is that a new spot on my arm? Hello, dermatologist. Can I get in next week? Fine.
Yeah, where
You
I'm
know,
scraping it off
where
myself.
you're like,
I'll cut it out.
it's okay. It's gone.
Yeah. So it's funny. My sister and I are very different in that way. Like I'm just like I knew the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
You look up stage 4 cancer. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, oh, you're gonna be fine because she was fine. Like she seemed fine.
Mm-hmm.
Where my sister was more proactive, like, well, we're gonna do this, 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 this,
Mm-hmm.
this, and I'm just like, oh, it's all gonna work itself out because I like live in that bubble in my head, like I don't know, like I think the everything's gonna be fine always, and
Well, and it's like
as
it's like that whole thing with the stages of grief. It's like denial is always the first thing. So if you deny it, it kind of takes away that it's actually existing and happening. And that's like a hard thing. And I do feel like, Phil is always when I when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about this, and I'll get worked up about it. He's like, don't worry until you find out. He's like, there's no worry and stress. It's gonna be fine. Like he's always like that positive little voice in my ear when I'm like doom and gloom. This is what's happening. So I think that's just it's a difference in personality. And when you're not the person that's going through it or having something happen that you're having to have checked, or like my mom with the cancer, when you're not the one in that position, it's easier, I think, to try and be a little more positive and be the cheerleader and say, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine.
when my mom had surgery, they removed, I don't know if it was like 19 lymph nodes, and out
Whoa.
of the 19, it was like 17 had cancer in them, or if it was
Wow.
13, it was like 12 of them had cancer, whatever the number was. It was like a lot.
Hmm.
So we knew it was bad. She had a mastectomy and everything.
So your mom had a double mastectomy?
Yes, it was a
Okay.
double mastectomy, which is a huge surgery.
Yeah.
But again, there's funny things that, not funny things, but I come from very blue collar people. Like my dad worked in a factory really, really hard. He retired
Yeah.
making $9 an hour. Um, Old country,
Hmm.
just say it like it is kind of thing. You come home and you're
Hmm.
not allowed to take a bath for however long. And it was the first time that she was able to take a shower or bath from having the surgery. So my dad was in the bathroom helping her.
Hmm.
And he comes out and he's like, oh, it's the most terrible thing I've ever seen. And I'm all like, Dad, oh my God, you're supposed to say, oh, you're beautiful. It doesn't matter. It's just that old country. You say it like it is and you just move
You
on.
see it, you say
Yeah.
it.
It's just like, oh my God, like us here in California, we're all like, oh, therapy and la 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 la. Oh, you're wonderful. You're great.
PC, be politically correct. Don't
Exactly.
say anything mean.
Not my family. So it's funny, like, and then we go to stories like that, and you laugh about them now. At the time, you're like, Dad, what were you thinking,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
At the time, you're like mortified. You're like, that is not what's needed right now.
Yeah, because no matter what, as strong as my mom was,
Hmm.
she must have been feeling, and I never heard her complain.
Yeah.
Like, you never hear her, like, I'm feeling this way or that way. It just wasn't in her. Like, you just keep it all in,
Hmm.
you know?
Wow. Just
Yeah.
like suffer in silence
Yeah.
and put on the brave face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that for me, I sometimes feel like was a generational thing too, because my mom was like that a bit, where she didn't want to impose, she didn't want to be a burden, she just wanted to deal with what she had to deal with on her own, and she wouldn't like put it out there. Like she didn't want sympathy, she didn't want people to pity her. And it's that, I'm gonna suffer in silence generation that I
Well,
feel like
also,
she came from.
cancer was like something like, yeah, what movie was that where they go, she had cancer? You know what I mean?
Where they
Like,
whisper it, I can't remember.
you know what I'm
Anybody
talking?
remembers it, let us know,
Yeah.
because I know what you're talking about, because it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
it's like,
didn't
it's
want to
a
say it out loud.
horrible thing. Like, you don't want people to know you have cancer. It's
Yeah.
like, I think that's kind of like the world we lived in. Like,
Hmm.
it's just odd, right?
Yeah, and now it's just like it just rolls off of everybody's mouth, because it seems like every time you turn around, somebody's got some form happening somewhere. It's just like, wow, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell to stay up to date on all new videos.